Okay, good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to Phatkat Collections. Doing another up close and personal kind of show and tell today. And this is a Cadola watch. And so, just so you guys are aware, if you're new to the channel and well, if you're not new to the channel, you guys know I've been doing multiple videos of each watch. So you're going to get one done in the format I normally do with me in the video, kind of going over the watch and the specs, and then another one just without me in the video. So two different types of format, because some folks do really like to see me in the video and others just really prefer the watch. So I want to appease both. I think it's important for folks to learn about these great watches and discover them and add them to their collection. And this is a great way of doing that. So this is Cadola's one of their newer releases. This is the Rally Timer. If you're not familiar with Cadola, they basically make kind of vintage automotive themed watches. And so although sometimes the reference to whether it be a car or the theme is kind of presented pretty well and pretty clear, other times it's pretty vague. And it's kind of tough to make a watch completely themed after a car. But I'm going to read you kind of what they say about this watch. This is the Rally Timer. This is done in the Dove Gray. It's available in 4 different colors. I'll talk about those in a little bit. And it just says, this is a tribute to vintage motorsports heritage, featuring a striking dial inspired by classic odometers. Now, this is where I think the inspiration is very vague, because what you have here is an inner rotating bezel, a crown, and a dial or a tachometer isn't really I don't know, it's really not all that unique, right? It looks like a clock anyway. So it's hard to kind of you can basically say that this other Nubeo or this Invicta, not so much this Invicta, but a lot of watches are inspired by an odometer, right? Or a tachometer or whatever. So yeah, it's not really, I'd say, a great theme, but they have to do something. And I think, like I said, with Dartmouth brands, and Dartmouth is kind of the parent company for brands like Nubeo, RGMT, Aviate. Each one kind of has their own little theme, right? So Aviate's kind of World War II inspired after, planes and aviation. This is more the vintage automotive. I think, sometimes it's difficult to try to theme a watch because, they have to make money, right? They have to kind of put so many hours in, I guess, design. And it's not easy to, I'd say, machine up to make, for instance, how else would you make a watch that's, inspired as a tribute towards vintage motorsports, right? I mean, how else can you do that? Sometimes, Dartmouth puts out so many watches that a lot of times they do a great job at, like when they do a Nubeo themed moon watch, like they can have the whole moon on the face. Yeah, it's pretty clear what the inspiration is. Other times it's a mild kind of, I guess, inspiration. So just kind of take it for what it is. What I think really screams automotive about this watch, or vintage heritage racing, is really the strap. And we've seen these before, but I love this perforated rally strap. And to me, what it reminds me of is like your vintage, brown deerskin leather driving gloves with the knuckle exposed. I think that is a great representation of kind of vintage automotive, vintage motorsports. I kind of picture this watch on my wrist with some matching deerskin driving gloves with the knuckles exposed, driving some convertible Jag through some leaves, through some twisties somewhere in England. And that's kind of the picture I'm painting for the inspiration of this watch. But I definitely think if this watch did not have the perforated strap, it would not be as cool. And I really like this strap. It's genuine leather, of course. Nice quality, like anything that is under the Dartmouth branding. It definitely has that vibe. And when I put this on my wrist, which I will do so in a few minutes, I get that kind of that kind of classy automotive kind of vibe with this watch, So I can see this with a nice kind of caramel colored lambskin leather jacket. It would look great. So it's a nice looking piece. You just kind of take the inspiration sometimes with a grain of salt, but it's a cool piece. So what else about this watch? So you have a Japanese automatic. They don't say specifically which one. It's probably an NH series or a Miyota. It is stainless steel. It's a 46 millimeter case diameter with a 12.4 millimeter case thickness. 54 millimeters lug to lug. You do have that screw-on case back, the Cadola logo. It's a simple, clean, very conservative watch. The inner rotating bezel's pretty cool. I always like watches that have that kind of recessed on the inside there. It's, it's different. If you have a lot of watches with standard bezel, it's kind of a nice addition. Printed indexes, pull-out crown, and this is a 20 millimeter brown leather strap. 10 ATMs water resistance. A little bit of red on the bezel. I'm not sure why they have an arrow there, because you can turn this either way. That might be inspired by something maybe in a car, maybe on a tack. I'm not sure. But hey, they make a lot of watches, and you got to kind of take the inspiration with a grain of salt. But I do think that Cadola, this is just my 2 cents based on, I think what I would do if I owned Cadola, is that on any watch that has a bracelet, right, metal, I would, that kind of goes out the window. But on anything that they make that has a strap, whether it be leather or silicone, whatever, I think it should always have this perforated style. I think that would definitely kind of like focus the brand a little bit more, because this definitely screams, vintage racing to me. Again, I just picture driving gloves. Without this, it just wouldn't have the same vibe. So that's my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. I think it's a nice looking piece, and it's definitely a conservative watch. What are the specifications? It's got all the specs you want: stainless steel, leather, automatic movement, probably the NH series. You do have a sapphire lens on this with anti-reflective coating. 316 stainless steel, if I didn't say. You get all the specs that you really want in a watch. Price on it, I think it's going for like $2 something right now. It's nice, $245. So you really can't go wrong if you, I think, focus with this watch. If you're so used to seeing these on Fat Cat Collections, yeah, if this is your cup of tea, this watch isn't going to do anything for you. But if you're a conservative guy and you want something just clean, classy, and of nice quality, definitely give this Cadola a look. Let me throw it on the wrist here. I got a 7-inch wrist, just so you know. This is on the second to last notch, so just kind of keep that in mind. You're probably, if you have a smaller wrist, 6 inches, this is probably going to be loose on you. So I'd say the smallest wrist for this watch, and it's kind of pushing it with a 6.5. Doesn't that strap look great? I don't have, of all the watches, I think I have about 500 watches in my collection. I don't have many with this type of strap, and I definitely don't have one in brown. And I tell you, I really like it. I think it looks fantastic, and it just has that vintage. Just kind of picture this with some deerskin driving gloves. Awesome. I might have to go get a pair of those, hop in the Jag, and go for a little drive in the fall. Anyway, I'm trying to paint the picture for you folks, but great looking piece. Has all the specs you'd want in a quality watch. Great price point. Links in the description. If I have a coupon code, I'll put in there as well. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask. I'm always there to help you out. As always, subscribe to the channel and take care.